What's up, guys, and welcome back to another podcast episode. You look like you were going to say something, Toby.
Well, yes, but then I also had to hold myself back because I was going to be very loud.
Oh, don't.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
know.
want to make our listeners deaf. I think that's like number one rule when you run a podcast is like make sure that they can still listen to you.
Like hold your hands over when you scream.
Yeah. Okay, so first off, we just want to acknowledge it's been 2 weeks since we did a podcast
Yeah,
episode.
sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
But
life happens. In this instance, life got a little crazy for me. And I know it was pretty busy for you. So we just put the podcast on hold for about 2 weeks.
yeah,
So
I was going to make a very inappropriate joke, but
I kind of want to hear it now.
well, it's just like better late than never. Just like a late period.
Hey, it's kind of appropriate because I did have a late period.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Got it yesterday. That was lovely. Fine.
Yeah, you get all scared and like, oh. Just kidding, we're fine.
No, the reason why we took a 2-week break is like obviously Toby, like he runs his own business. He's doing a lot of things. You also started your own YouTube channel too. I saw.
Yeah, crazy.
Dope. Yeah,
I know. It's you don't realize you suck at something until you watch nowadays with content creation being something that a lot of people can do for a living. A lot of people like pay editors.
Mm-hmm.
And so their YouTube videos look sick.
Yeah.
And then you're like, hey, I want to do that too because I live a very, very similar lifestyle. And then you put yours together and you're like, oh, this is really fucking hard.
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
Yeah.
100%.
But it's a super cool learning curve, because the first one was god awful. And then by the second time, we learned that it's like, hey, you can do this noise canceling. So the audio was way better and the transitions were way better. And then you realize it's like, hey, you shouldn't edit these things out of order because it messes everything up down the line. So the third one was everything in order. You get better and better and better. And it's like the learning curve. I am obsessed with improvement. So,
yeah. I mean, that's the only way for you to improve is just embracing the suck. Like just expect it's going to suck and just like find the joy in it. You're just like, hey, like the only way for me to get better is fuck up a bunch, put 1,000 bad reps in, and then I finally start getting into the good ones. So
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. But also on my end, a bit of a hectic family emergency happened. 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, I was walking out of a coffee shop working, about to go home for a coaching call. And I got a call from my mom saying that my dad was in the hospital from a heart attack. And literally just ran home with Calvin, packed up everything. Within about 15 minutes, got in the car and drove to Omaha, Nebraska, which isn't too far. It's about 3 hours, but it seemed like the longest 3 hours of my life.
Were you speeding? Be honest.
No, we weren't, because Calvin was driving my car and everything like that. And like, we're going to be safe. Like, obviously I wanted to be there fast.
I would have, if I was driving, I would have for sure sped.
Yeah. I was like, there were some definite times where I was like, go faster, but I was trying not to. But yeah, and it was really crazy. Obviously, I'm not going to tell the whole story just because we want privacy of it. But my dad had a heart attack, and with that heart attack came a lot of complications with it. But just a little back story. My dad and my whole family side on my dad's side has a huge history of heart disease, heart attacks, things like that. And so with his genetics, it wasn't necessarily a matter of if, it was just a matter of when.
Oh.
And so for a very long time, my dad has been really taking that serious and knowing that his nutrition, his fitness is going to help him recover from a potential heart attack that's more than likely going to happen. So at the age of 60, he's actually, I would say probably in better shape than a lot of 20-year-olds out there.
For sure, 100%.
Especially with our society today, we're just not healthy at all. So he's very strong. He's very fit. He's also been working with Toby a lot. And he really started taking his health seriously when I started becoming really passionate about nutrition. And he had some scares as well earlier on in life. A lot of times we really do hit that transition in our life from a huge scare. Gets the big kick in the butt that we need to start taking it seriously. So he did. And with that being said, he had a heart attack, and the heart attack that he had is called the Widowmaker. A lot of people don't survive it, and luckily he did. But it was a long, long road of us sitting on our hands because he had to be sedated and paralyzed for a while, because there was a bunch of complications that required him to be put under until his body was safe enough to bring him up to see if he was still mentally there. His heart was still healthy, the muscles were still healthy, but it was potential brain damage because nobody knew how long he was down for, how long his brain may have gone without oxygen, and that can cause brain damage. And so they did try to get MRIs and things like that, but a lot of it was inconclusive. So we all had to wait until he could wake up. So it was a lot of trial and error for about a week until he finally, the doctors are like, I think he's ready. Fuck it. Let's try. Like it's a whole lot of trial and error. There's no clear cut course when it comes to the brain.
And that's usually how medicine is, right? It's like
Yeah.
you try to diagnose, but most of diagnoses comes by ruling out other things, and
Yeah.
then once you're fairly certain, you act,
Yeah.
right? And it's a lot of medical professionals, especially nowadays, get so much backlash for it. For it's like, hey, I was fairly sure all the signs were pointing to X, and we took a shot, and you were the 0.5% where this is an abnormality, and then everyone goes like, oh, you were a bad doctor and don't trust medicine and the medical mafia and all kinds of shit that you hear nowadays,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
So
It's like just seeing them in action, which by the way, like the whole ICU team that was working with my dad, they were like the nurses, the doctors, everything. They
they're
were
pretty
amazing.
fucking great, huh?
Yeah, they were absolutely amazing. We appreciated every single one of them.
Shout out to everyone who's working in healthcare.
Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of healthcare workers that work with us too. We love them so much. But uh, he did wake up, and that was the craziest experience, seeing somebody wake up and going through that process. He did a lot of funny things too because he was drugged up, and we have a lot of conversations
Do
about
you
all the funny
ever
things he did.
do you ever
So
ask yourself, it's like, what goes through their brain?
mhm,
Like, I've woken up in a hospital with the tube down my throat before, where you're like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah,
what happened? What is going on?
yeah. So here's the thing is that my dad is suffering from short-term memory loss. And it's more than likely temporary because they did do a lot of scans where like we don't see any long-term damage to the brain, right? There was some brain damage, but it was very temporary, which is somewhat expected when you go through a major heart attack like that, right? And so he does have some short-term memory, probably some from the, just like the stress on the body of that whole process, probably some of lack of oxygen to the brain, but he's starting to remember things more and more and more. He's starting to get his memory back. It's pretty standard for a lot of people for a couple weeks, even a couple of months until it starts clicking again. Because your brain basically reboots. Like it literally just you just hit the restart and it reboots, so it has to relearn things. So the fortunate thing is that like, and I talked to my dad. I'm going to get a little emotional about this right now, but I was talking to my dad about this, and the fortunate thing is that he did take his health seriously, and that like we had a conversation later because he felt like you go through these like major moments. It's very emotional, and I'm getting emotional right now. I told myself I wouldn't, but here we go. Um,
How could you not?
I know it's scary. Take a second. And he was going through all these different thoughts, and I could see it coming up in his brain where he might be kind of blaming himself, right? Like nobody's perfect. Could I have done something different? Could I have taken this more serious? Could have made better choices? And I just reminded him that like the reason why he's alive today is because he took his health so seriously, and that was like the best gift he could ever give me. And I know you hate emotions, that's why I'm trying not to do it. What do you say all the times? Feelings are meant to be felt, not talked, or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. If we were supposed to talk about our feelings, they would be called talkings.
Talkings, yeah. Yeah. So that was the best gift that he could ever give me is just taking his health seriously because like he's still here. Like that's the reason why he's today like here today is the doctors were talking about it is like the reason why he's still here today is because he took care of himself. He ate right. He moved frequently. He was proactive with his health. And that's why I still have a dad today. And it's very heartwarming to know that he did that. It's like a love language. I honestly think it should be in a love language, is taking care of yourself, because like when you take care of yourself, you're there for your family.
Yep.
You're most, especially mentally as well. Like there's such a huge hand with your physical health into your mental health for sure. And so it's just like very, very grateful that he showed that love to us through taking care of himself. So that way he could get on the other side. And so obviously during that whole process, like I was not working. I was there with my family. And also like I put my health on the back burner. And so this brings me to what we're actually going to be talking about today on the podcast, because I felt like this would be a great topic, because this type of circumstance, while it's unfortunate, like I am not alone in going through something like this. Everybody goes through something like this in their life. Unfortunately, it's part
at
of
one point,
yeah,
right?
at one point or another. And a lot of times it doesn't turn out great like it did for me. Like I'm very blessed for it to be turned around and to come out with such a great outcome, and him recovering so fast that like he's yelling at the not yelling, but he's asking the PTs to actually challenge him, because he feels like his rehab's not hard enough right now.
That
So
sounds
like it. If you know my dad,
yes.
that sounds like him. So he's doing great. But I think the hard part is like, okay, when it comes to our health, we know that we need to start, and we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to be consistent. But then we have life happen. Life's a bitch, and sometimes it punches us in the face. And we have to put our health on the back burner to do what we need to do to take care of our family and be there for the people that count on us. But the process of going from putting ourselves on the back burner to getting back on the wagon again, that is hard. That is really hard for a lot of people. And a lot of times what happens, and we say this with all the love in the world because it's human, right? Sometimes, like for me, 2 weeks, for some people that could potentially turn into months, because it's so hard to get that momentum back to taking care of themselves again.
Yes, I think a lot of that comes with that like negative spiral or vortex of thoughts that you go down. It's like, hey, even if I take care of myself, this can happen.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we're looking at it from that perspective rather than what you said a couple minutes ago, where it was like, no, because you take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you survive this, right?
Yeah.
Just because you lived the life you did, because you spent the time you spent, we
Mm-hmm.
have to say it that way, you spent the money to take care of yourself. It's you have the ability to overcome this,
Yeah, like there's
right?
no guarantee in life. And that's something that I'm thinking about too, is because like I am a product of my dad. I am just like my dad. Um, and so I'm concerned about my heart too. Like I'm definitely going to be starting to pay attention a little bit more, because like, when you're younger, you feel like you're completely,
Invincible.
yeah. And now I like that was like a kick in the ass of like, you're not invincible.
Mhm.
You have that genetics where it's like, it's probably going to happen to you too. And so, like, I was thinking about this on the drive back to Omaha. It's like, there's no guarantee that I'm not going to have that. No matter how hard I work, no matter what I do, there's no guarantee that I'm not going to have that. But what I can guarantee is that if I don't do anything, if I just sulk about it, my quality of life is still going to be a lot lower. I'm going to be living in fear, and I decrease my chances of surviving and being there for the people that
Yeah,
depend on
you
me
you turned the bubble
significantly.
girl, right?
Yeah, like I want to leave this world being proud of the effort, knowing that I did everything I could possible to not only live the life that I want, but be the person that the people count on me
Hmm.
need. And I think that in itself, just the effort itself, people will appreciate. And then you will become very, very proud of yourself, because you're doing something. You're not just sitting on your hands. You're being proactive and building that, what's called like self efficacy, right? Like that, the ability that I'm going to do something, and I'm keeping my promises to myself, which builds that confidence and that increase of quality of life mentally too, right?
Hmm.
And so I think another reason why it's really hard for people to get back into it too is because and this is the old Casey. Old Casey used to do this all the time. And I'm actually really proud because I'm not doing it this time. And I'm actually like, I noticed it. I'm like, oh shit, I've grown a lot. Like old Casey would have been like full of shame and disappointment that I let that happen. Even though logically I'm like, I needed to do it. Like it's not that big of a deal because like right before that happened, I was on momentum. Like I was like, feeling leaner. I was feeling more athletic. My running, the programming, dude, it was going fantastic. The lifting too. Like I was really racking, like stacking things up. I was feeling good about myself and that really great momentum. And all of a sudden stopped.
Mm.
And then throughout that whole process, like I couldn't eat the foods I normally eat. Like I'm gluten, dairy free because my body gets pissed when when I don't follow that. I also need my sleep. I've learned that the hard way. And all of a sudden, I'm breaking out all over. I've got rashes all over my chest. I've like bloated beyond belief. And just the mental fog was unreal. Like I could not remember anything, but I couldn't control my circumstances. We literally ate what we could get our hands on and we were in the hospital 24/7. There was nothing I could do. But now I'm on the other side and I'm dealing with those consequences, right? I feel very uncomfy in my body, feel very fatigued, all these different things. Old Casey would have been like, screw you. Like, you need to be more disciplined. Like, just like everything that we hear online is like, you just need to be more disciplined. You don't want it enough. And so it starts driving this whole shameful spiral of like, I need to like beat my body up more, go into a huge calorie deficit, work out twice as hard as I did before, maybe walk ungodly amounts of steps, just these extremes because you're in this emotional state. And it just breeds self-sabotage. And that's one of the reasons why I got stuck in it. And so, and this is something that we work with our clients all the time is making sure that we're making logical decisions and not emotional decisions.
Absolutely, right? So this is now where if we haven't named today's topic, what I'm going to say next, it doesn't make any sense, right? So diving into the world of compassionate accountability.
Yes.
Right. I think when we're labeling it that way, a lot of people look at accountability as if it is my fault, I need to take I need to take accountability, right? But it may not be your fault, right? But you are still responsible to handle the situation so that it doesn't affect you as negatively as it can,
100%.
right? So when we're bringing that compassionate piece into it, we're combining empathy with responsibility, right?
Yeah.
You need to have enough empathy to understand how this is affecting you, right? And what your body is going through, what your brain is going through. But you also have to have enough accountability to realize that, hey, this may not be my fault, but I still have a responsibility and I owe it not just to the people around me, but to myself, that I act according to the character that I'm playing in life, right?
100%.
Like if you are a mom, you are still responsible to care for your kids, right? How often do we see it? And I know I usually, and I said the same thing when I got the message and the call from you, where it's like, this doesn't happen to the people around us. That's a Hollywood thing. Like this is only for movies, where a single parent gets the call that their parent now has passed away, and now the kids out of the sudden have dirty clothes at school, have lesser put together lunch, right? It's because it's not your fault, right? It's not, so you can't blame yourself, but it's still your responsibility to take care of yourself, to take care of the people who depend on you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, like, and this is one of the reasons why I decided to talk about this topic, like compassionate accountability, is because, like, going back to majority of what you see online is just absolute bullshit. It goes directly against what we know in the science world of what it means to create more discipline, to be that person that has a high amount of self-efficacy. I say I'm going to do it and I actually follow through. And that's the disconnect where most people, like 95% of the people coming into our door start with that problem. I know what to do, but I just don't do it. That's the self-efficacy, right?
Or this is just not for me. It's I
Yes.
don't deserve to be
Yes.
there, so I need to lower my standards. I need to lessen my goals.
Exactly. Exactly. And so a lot of times that is an issue because we're trying to
Hmm.
do things that don't help. It keeps us in that self-sabotaging cycle. And so that's one of the reasons why I love diving and I love geeking into like the world of psychology, mindset, and behavior change. And it stemmed from because I struggled with it so much my whole
Hmm.
life. I was always that person that had a lot of potential but never followed through with it, or the person that had all the motivation, but then right before I had it, I just sabotaged my success. And I'm just like, I like kept blaming myself and self shame, and it just got to the point where it's like I just had enough. And I just was noticed the trends. I noticed what was happening to me and everybody around me. And I was into the coaching thing too. And I was like, you know what? Right? Like it's not enough to just teach people about nutrition and fitness. We also have to teach people how to change their life. Because if they don't change their
100%.
life, that information means nothing. So that's why the what goes in between your ears, we always say this, that can make or break your progress. No coach can help you if you do not deal
Hmm.
what's going in your brain, or you're not open to it. And that's one of the reasons why you get a coach, is because that's the hard part. The nutrition, the fitness stuff that we teach, like all the logistical stuff, you can literally go on ChatGPT and learn that. But what AI and all these programs won't help you with is what's going on in between your ears. How do you
Yeah,
take that information and actually apply it
it's
to your life?
the traditional sense of accountability, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
way that we see it on the internet, and it's like it focuses mainly on outcomes, consequences,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, hey, you are accountable what to this outcome, right? It's like this happened because of this action. You need to take accountability, right? But without compassion, I feel like it leads to fear of potentially negative outcomes. And now I'm resenting the things that normally get me there, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I don't get genuine change
Yeah.
and I just stay stuck,
Mm-hmm.
right? But once I learn and I understand the reason behind certain behaviors
Mm-hmm.
that I bring to the daylight, right? It helps me to hold myself accountable for my actions because I'm understanding why am I doing this,
Yes.
right? It's
100%.
the brain will take the path of least resistance. Like an alcoholic doesn't want to drink. It's just the path of least resistance to get those happy hormones, those
Mm-hmm.
chemicals that will simply lead to temporary feeling better. But again, it's not genuine change,
Yeah.
right? But once that person understands why am I doing this and why do I have to go through these steps that will lead to change,
Mm-hmm.
it makes, I don't know, I would like to use the word like embracing the suck.
Yeah.
Like it
It does.
makes it makes it so it makes it so much easier if I understand why am I working out? Why do I people say it all the time, like when I work out hard, and it's like, how was that this morning?
Yeah.
How was that workout? That really hurt.
Yeah.
Because we had sprint intervals, and it's like
Ooh.
it does. It's just awful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like nobody forces you to go that hard,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's if you know why you're doing it, it makes it so much easier to embrace this. It's like I knew it was going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that. I've been a competitive athlete my whole life, right? But it's then why do you do it if you know it's going to suck? It's because without it I don't get to the other side of where I want to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that logical thinking that we're always talking about logically fit. We're using our brain, not just our emotions to make our decisions, right? And so, like, that's what we want to do is on this podcast episode is just go over um, compassion and accountability
Yeah.
and what it means. And so,
Long ass intro.
yeah, long ass. I mean, but it's good though. Um, and I'll be 1,000% honest with you. When I started learning about this stuff, when I heard a compassion and accountability, I was immediately turned off. Like, like compassionate accountability. That sounds like frou-frou bullshit.
I was about
Where
to
I'm
say
just gonna
sounds
let
like
myself,
some woo.
yeah, woo-woo bullshit. But like when I actually kept an open mind and started learning more about it, and you actually dive into the research, it's logical. It makes sense. So like
Hmm.
that whole like I have to put my personal biases and emotions aside and actually take an objective and logical viewpoint of this to see if this would be beneficial. And it has been an absolute game changer. I'll be honest with you, ever since I started applying this to my own life, holy shit.
I know.
Not only am I getting stuff done faster, but I'm more disciplined, but I'm more at peace,
Yes.
right? You see all these people that are trying to force themselves to be that disciplined person, and they're just like this person that just runs hot, where everything has to go according to plan. But if it doesn't, you freak the frick out and you become a mental drama queen. Or when something goes bad, like, hey, this time in life, now you become that person that's diving into all these restrictive diets, punishing yourself in the gym, and everybody around you is like, are you okay? And
Hmm.
it's because the lack of emotional stability and the lack of resilience, you become that mental drama queen. Nobody wants to be that person. Everybody sees that person, they're like, and I used to be that person. I still have my moments. I'm a human being, but it's a lot less frequent. And it's because I have adopted this skill of compassionate accountability. And like you said before, it's this beautiful concoction of showing yourself some grace, but like owning your shit at the same time, right? Because you're a human being. You're not going to be perfect. And you have to accept that. But when you accept that, you get to understand your situation and you get to do something about it. But when somebody doesn't accept it, right, they either stay stuck or they start making irrational decisions that lead to that self sabotage. So that's why we want this compassion and accountability. So just to recap exactly what it is again, is like just basically showing yourself in a balance of self, like empathy or grace and self kindness, with a commitment that and the responsibility of just still making progress, still moving forward. When you are able to do that, it helps you become that person that takes a short period of time, but as soon as you can, you get right back to it. You jump right back on the wagon rather than staying off the wagon, or jumping right back on the wagon and then jumping right off because you burn yourself out.
Hmm.
Right. And so some things that really do happen, especially when you look at the research behind it. Okay. Some things that you are going to see when you start adopting the skill more is a higher goal achievement. Like you're going to start showing greater motivation because you're actually going to start enjoying the process, because it's not coming out of shame. It's coming out of understanding, and then like discipline, right? Like you make a promise to yourself, you keep it. Every single time that you do that, you feel that momentum and you start looking forward to it. It's like, hey, I did this hard thing. Holy crap, I wonder what else I could do. I wonder what else. And it's that type 2 fun where it's like it's not very fun in the moment, but you're extremely proud of the person that you're becoming and the accomplishments that you're creating because of this momentum that you're creating. Right. Another thing that you're going to see is like a reduce in fear of failure, like you said before, Toby. Right. You're no longer fearing failure, which is part of the process. And it's because you're actually giving yourself permission to fail, but you're actually doing something about it. You're taking action to follow it instead of
Yeah,
sabotaging your own
you're
success.
creating such a supportive environment, right? But
Mm-hmm.
not for yourself. It's because when people see you treat yourself in a certain way, they start treating themselves
Mm-hmm.
that way too, right? Or you may find yourself treating others that way
Yeah.
as well, right? Um, from what I've read, kind of like applying that to what you've read and your experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because we share a lot of our experiences, at least in the last 2.5, 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? But prior to that, where we developed kind of like our own skill set, it came from different pieces,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's I find there to be four different pieces to
Yeah.
compassionate accountability. One, you already said, empathy,
Mm-hmm.
right? It allows us to connect with others and ourselves on a deeper level, right? If I can understand their perspective or their emotion, I can help them hold themselves accountable, right? It's the foundation of compassionate accountability, right? But that doesn't come without the ability to understand and recognize the root cause of certain behaviors, right? And then acknowledging maybe some external factors that may influence actions,
Mm-hmm.
right? And from there, it's taking action,
Mm-hmm.
right? Taking concrete steps to address the underlying issue so that I'm clearing the way to make positive change. Now, when that doesn't happen, I also need to be aware enough to take responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? I have to understand my own role in the situation that I'm currently in. And I just talked to somebody at our gym about this, where we have this desire, right? We do this a lot where we do the future self journaling prompt,
Yes.
right? And I may see myself in this idealistic setting, right? And I have this picture of this best version of myself, right? And if I'm the best, it's almost perfect, right? But that may not be for right now. I still have a role to play right now. And if I don't acknowledge that role, it's going to be really, really hard to make improvements that guide me down the right way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I do an all or nothing approach because that's what my perfect self would do,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm neglecting the responsibilities that I have right now. And then all of that will come crushing down on me, and I no longer have time, and I feel this pushing and pulling between what I have to do and what I want to do, and none of those things coincide. And now I really don't go anywhere, and I'll eventually just throw in the towel.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's like all of you talking about all those things. I'm like, yeah, that was me. Oh, bad. Um, but the good news is guys, is that this is a skill. You are not stuck where you're at. You can learn this skill just like
Yes.
anything else. I think that whole mindset of this is just who I am. I'm stuck. This isn't for me. This sounds good for other people, but I would never do, like, check yourself right there. That's that fixed mindset that's keeping you in the box. You have 100% have the power to create this change with practice over a period of time. And like, just from talking from personal experience, it's an absolute game changer. Like, yes, I'm progressing, but I also have peace, right? I'm showing myself compassion, but I'm also holding myself accountable. There's no longer that internal battle of the extremes anymore. I feel a little bit more, I don't like the word balanced, but connected,
Mhm.
right? More proud of who I am as well. But when it comes to compassion and accountability, I think this, just how to apply it. I think this is also something that it's really important for us to talk about, is how do we take this skill and apply it, right? Because the last thing I want to do is be that person. You see this online all the time. So just be more disciplined, man. Just want it more.
I
It's
know.
not motivation. It's just it's that's like saying like, hey, like, I'm naturally good at squats, so I'm going to teach you how to do it because I know how to naturally do it. So you just go up and down, right?
I
Just do
think
it better, kind
I
of a
think
thing.
motivation is a very difficult concept to bring in,
Yeah.
just because we have this populist definition of what motivation is, right?
Yeah.
Motivation is this positive feeling that drives me towards doing something out of the joy. Why are you doing this? I don't know. I just felt really motivated to do it.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at the true definition, right? What is motivation? It's really a motive.
Mm-hmm.
Anything and everything can be a motive,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I have my hand on the turned on red hot stove top, I'm feeling pain, and that's enough motive for me to take my hand off,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's, hey, I hate the situation that I'm in, and I hate it enough where I can no longer endure, and that is enough motive for me to change. Or I simply really, really want this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's enough motive. So motivation in itself is not always positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like sometimes if you fake it, that's also the same thing, right? Because
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, if I'm in a situation where I'm very, very scared and I fake bravery,
Mm-hmm.
I am now brave.
Yeah.
Whereas
You
if
fake it
I'm
enough and you take enough actions, you now become that person because your identity
100%,
is full of like it's the
100,
outcome of your actions.
100%,
Yeah.
right? So don't wait for that positive feeling that like
Hmm.
comes from within where you're like, I am just so motivated. I'm itching to do this.
Yeah. There's also a common phrase is that motivation does not lead to action. Action leads to motivation. So that kind of ties into the whole like, if you fake it,
Yeah,
it'll happen.
action leads to
Right.
results. Results lead to motivation, right? It's
Yeah,
because you feel
exactly.
so good about getting results that it becomes easy to continue to do the thing that got you the results. But
Yeah. So I think like 100% is like when you're coming out of a place where you're struggling, super stressful moment, or you've fallen off the wagon, like don't, and it's easier said than done, but start before you feel like you're ready.
mhm,
Right. Like when I got back here, like the whole compassion and accountability, like I guess what I'm going to try to do is just like go through what works for me. Like, what is my step process? I feel like there's no perfect way to do it. There's no step 1, 2, 3, especially when it comes to like behavior change and mindset. There's some guidelines you can follow, but ultimately it's a little trial and error until you figure it out. So, like, I'm sure Toby, you probably have a different process than I do, but
for sure.
this is what worked for me in this moment. And so the first one is just like acknowledging my emotions and how I'm feeling, right?
Absolutely. You have
Like,
to.
yeah, like, and that was one of the things, especially when you want to become this person that isn't a mental drama queen or completely self-sabotages. I think
Hmm.
emotional regulation is a huge part of it. And I've told you this multiple times. I've been practicing it a lot and I feel like, have I been getting better? I feel like I have. I do have my moments still when I get tired and things like that. But, um, I joke about this. I used to have the emotional intelligence of a toddler because my whole life I just avoided my emotions.
I don't think that's the right way to put it because you
Mhm.
have a lot of emotional intelligence when you're talking to others because
Yes.
you're naturally an empath,
Yeah.
right? It's you have a very hard time defining your own emotions.
Yeah. It's like oh gosh, I was listening to a podcast about this and he had a word about it and it was long and I can't remember. Started with an A. But he described it perfectly and it's like color blindness of your emotions.
Hmm.
If you don't know how to identify your emotions, you don't know where it's coming from, then you don't know how to solve it. So you're just sitting in your emotions and then our emotions aren't always reality. Right. So that I've been really working on learning how to identify my emotions during this whole time when I felt like I was safe enough to do so. There was a couple times like Sunday night, I came home and I was just mood swings.
Mm.
I was just like appreciative and grateful that I was home, but then just start crying. And he's like, "Why are you sad?" I'm like, I was like, I was honest with him. I was like, I don't know. I think I'm feeling the feeling of shame or anxiousness, but I'm not sure and I don't know where it's coming from. And so I sat there and I thought about it for a while. And I think part of it is just like the fear of being away from my father. Like he's fine, but there's still fear that something could happen. I'm not there. And so I finally
It's
identified that and I finally talked to my dad about that. And I started feeling better about it. Now it's not happening so much.
what scares
Right.
me a lot is that I am so far away where it's I
Oh yeah,
feel
because your family's all in Germany.
whereas if I feel like I just saw my mother for the first time in 6 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's if that is the new standard, right? How much longer do they have? How often do I get to see them, right? It's like the average life expectancy of Western cultured countries is like in the mid 80s, right? I know the average means some more, some less, but that's 36 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's six more times. That's a really fucking short amount of time,
No.
right? Like, that's not a lot. And can you imagine having to know? It's like, hey, you're going to get to see your parents six more times,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you say?
Yeah.
What do you do? Right? And it's, if I think about that, like, like right now, let's see. If I'm looking at my heart rate monitor, I get no, I'm serious. My resting heart rate is 47.
Yeah.
I'm at 86 right now.
Yeah.
It's like just thinking about that, like emotionally winds me up. like no other.
No. Right. And like, if you're not familiar with your emotions and why you're feeling that way, you could be having a heart rate up and you're like, I don't know how to identify emotions, especially with men. Men are
Oh,
less inclined to know how to identify their emotions. And I think it partly just because is how men are raised, is that you're not supposed to feel your
I was
feelings.
about to say, I don't think it's even their fault. I think
No.
it's society and the dating world. You
Mm.
know, it's
I hate the dating world so
how
much.
many women are okay having their lifelong partner be more sensitive than they are.
Yeah.
You know, and I know right now a lot of them are going to say it's like, oh yeah, I don't mind, I don't care. It's like until you get there,
Yeah.
you know. And then it's because the women are raised in a certain way as well, that it's like
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to be the sensitive one, so we're looking for someone who's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
That sense
it's,
of security, like they always need to be in control. If they don't,
yes.
if they're not in control, if they show their emotions, if they're
Hmm.
upset, then that means that I'm not safe either.
Yeah,
And so it
so
becomes very fear based 100%. Right. And
it's,
so I think that's the first step, is definitely just like
I suck
acknowledge
at
your
that.
emotions. Yeah. I suck at it too. Like but we just talked about this beginning of the episode. Practice makes perfect. We got to suck at it
Yes.
first. Embrace the suck. And then we just try to suck less, little by little, every single day.
Yes, I have a
Um,
little bobblehead in my office that says, do that, but better.
do that, but better. I want us, because I say this to our clients, just to normalize sucking. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
life is all about sucking a little less every single day.
Yes,
Everybody
100%.
sucks. We're just trying to get a little bit better. And they're like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot. Everybody sucks too. Like, and so one of like, I think a couple of our clients are like, you should make a shirt out of it. And I'm like, I'm thinking about it. Just suck less every single day. But then the next thing is going to be detach and reflect on your emotions. Okay. So here's an example with that is like, okay, another feeling that I'm feeling is very uncomfy in my body, very uncomfy, because I was very bloated, acne, rashes all over my body because of all the stress and the lack of sleep. Then I come home and then all of a sudden my period hits and I just feel very, very uncomfy in my body. And old Casey would have attached that emotion and let it ruin everything in my day. And I would also define myself. It'd become part of my identity, right? Like instead of being like, I feel very uncomfy, I'll be like, I am just this fat person. I fail. I suck. I can't do anything, all this stuff, rather than being like, I feel very uncomfy in my body, but then bringing my logical brain in. Hey, I went through a lot of stress. If I just simply get back to the swing of things, it will go back to normal in a couple of weeks. I did not gain a bunch of weight. I did not gain a bunch of fat from everything that's happening. My body just is stressed and it needs some loving, and I'm going to show up for myself no matter what. I'm still going to go to the gym and I'm not going to let this ruin my day, because why hate my body for trying to take care of myself? I went through a huge stressful moment, and if my body needs to be a little inflamed and hold on to a little bit of water to get me back to being healthy again, I'm going to let it do it. Right. So you see that peace of mind and that logical thinking when you detach yourself and don't allow the emotions and the feelings that you're feeling define who you are and define how you should feel about yourself. Right. And then the next step that I always do is just, how do I explain this? Right. So, like, I feel the feelings, I acknowledge it, I detach myself, but then the accountability comes in. Right. And so this is where I bring in the solution oriented thinking. Okay. So I feel these feelings, and logically, I know that my body's really stressed. Right. I want to sit on the couch and not do anything. I want to sleep all day. But that accountability part, I need to get up and I need to get moving. I need to work out. I need to get back to my regular routine, because even though I don't want to do it, detaching myself from the emotions,
Do
I
you
still
feel
have to
like you
do the
have
things I need to be
to
doing.
do you feel like you have to work out, or you feel like you have to move?
Um, at first it was move, right? So like uh when we went back home, my dad went home, and I had
Hmm.
to stay back to just help out with things. I was like really feeling icky, and I was talking to my dad about it. He's like, why don't you just go work out? Like, just go run, go for a run, go lift or something like that. It'll make you feel better. I'm like, emotionally, I think yes.
Hmm.
Right. But physically, logically thinking, I think my body is so stressed out that if I
Yeah.
go for a run, if I go work out, it would add fuel to the fire. So honestly, all I'm going to do is try to hit 8K steps a day.
Yeah.
And then just try to drink a bunch of water and just make better choices with my food. And then when I go back home, I'm going to just play it by feel and just listen to my body. If I didn't do that and my body's still trying to recover, that increases my chances of getting sick, injury, burnout, all these different things, right? And so a lot of times, again, like just because you're feeling a feeling doesn't mean that you have to act upon that feeling. That's why you go in a place of curiosity, you acknowledge the emotion, but you make a logical decision behind it. Just because you feel something does not mean you need to act upon it. So it's like the same thing where like this Monday and Tuesday, these both days, I want to sleep. I do not want to go to the gym. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to be on this podcast right now. Not because I don't love you, Toby, and everybody that's listening. It's just I am mentally fatigued. I don't have much left. But I know logically, if I don't get up and walk, if I don't drink water, if I don't go work out, if I don't get back to my routine, I'm going to be stuck longer. Right? So sometimes I have to do the things I don't want to do in order to get back to the feeling that I want to feel. And so it's like that accountability part right there. It's like acknowledge the feelings. It's okay to not want to do things. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to feel bloated. It's okay to feel uncomfy. But what's not okay is not doing anything about it, taking those steps, right? And then I would say is definitely avoid the perfectionist mindset. That's something that I struggle with all the time. Like talking about before, it's like, hey, it's Monday. We're going to go back to 100% in the gym, lifting super heavy weights. And I'm going to go back to my running program where I was supposed to be running 11 miles when I had the next week of my programming.
Good luck.
Yeah. Like there's no way I was going to do it. But previous Casey would have been driven by shame and emotions and would have tried to do it anyways because I would somehow be better because of it. No. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm still doing the programming if I feel good that day, but I'm putting about 50 to 75% intensity and I'm scaling back. So if like for today, I know that in the program that you made, there was like single leg broad jumps. I did double leg. My CNS system is so fried that doing a single leg, it was not working. So
Listen,
I just did double legs.
Scaling is belonging.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Scaling is just, it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of laziness. It's just being smart. It's being logical.
I was just about to say, it's being logical. It's you're acknowledging where you're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you wouldn't go and say it's like, hey, there's a 10,000-pound barbell. It's since my goal is to be super fucking strong and I want to be able to lift that one day. I'm gonna go lift that right now, right? Because obviously you can't, right? But it's in the things that you used to be able to do a couple of weeks ago, right? It's very, very hard to acknowledge that now is not the right time. Like yesterday, right? I came off of having the flu for a whole week and I really, really wanted to do the workout the way that it was written, right? Because our gym just became the first High Rocks training center in the state, which is super cool, right? It's like we had this.
I saw that, the whole announcement. I'm so excited for you guys.
We had this idea, like driving back home from the in-laws, where I was like, I have this idea. And normally when I say that, it's like when you say, hey, I have an idea, right? Us ADHD brainers, it's like, we have this idea, but
it might be stupid, but it might be brilliant. I don't know.
Right. We just have blindness of the way to get there, right? So I have this idea and it should be super simple, super easy, right?
No, how many times have I said that? And you're like, screw you, Casey.
Yeah, only takes a couple seconds. Can you do that? Sure, if it only takes a couple seconds, 3 days later. Right? And I was like,
my bad.
we should do that, right? So we did. So we had our first class and I'm going to flaunt. I'm really good at writing workouts. So it's like whenever I'm writing a workout program, let it be for our collective.
Mm-hmm. Don't you dare.
Let it be for...
for those of you that are like, what the heck just happened? We'll tell you guys at the end of this podcast. Just stay tuned. He almost dropped a hint of something.
I know. Let it be for the gym or for a personal training client. I now want to do that workout because I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of science behind this. It's like, this looks a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And it fit perfectly into my day, so I wanted to do it. And I kid you not, for 77% of that 1 hour, my heart rate was in zone 4 or higher.
Oh boy.
And I was like, this is not normal, right? So I had to do only 3 rounds instead of 4, right? Instead of using these weights that I would have normally used, you have to use lighter ones, and it still kicked my ass, right? But it's like at one point I used the same dumbbells as some of the ladies in the class. It's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to leave your ego at the door.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I don't know. I always remind myself is like, okay, one, what other people are doing is none of your business. If they're using the same dumbbells as you, whatever, if you're using less, it's none of your business because you're making the best decision for you. Yeah. But two, it's like, okay, who's going to win? The person at the finish line achieving their goals and doing it in a way that doesn't hurt. Not, I tell you, always wins. It's a competition. Always wins. But like, you're at the finish line, like you set a goal and you actually follow through with it, versus the person that lets their ego get in the way, make irrational decisions, and they make a goal, but they never actually follow through with it because they're not logical about what they're doing. They're not making smart choices and putting their ego in the back corner.
This almost got me expelled out of my very first CrossFit seminar.
It's because of the competition part?
We were talking about relative intensity, like who's going to win. And I used to be really big into MMA. And one of the people I was following was, for the people that do follow MMA, George St. Pierre. He's St. Pierre. Yeah, he was arguably the best to ever do it. And his coach was on the Joe Rogan podcast. And I was like, oh, that's like, I love, his name is Firas Zahabi. And I was like, I love that guy. I'm totally going to listen. And he's talking about relative intensity and that you should almost never be sore, right? And Joe Rogan was like, well, how does that make sense? How do you ever get better? And he was like, beautiful. Just listen. It's like, if you and I both do pull-ups and you put your absolute max into it, like I put a gun to your chest, you can't do one more rep, you're going to be so sore that you can't do another pull-up because you have to recover from this maximal effort until like Thursday. So you and I both do the same amount of pull-ups, but I could have done double that amount, but I stop, right? So now on Monday, we have the same score. On paper, it looks like we tied. But Tuesday, I come in and I do the same amount. Wednesday, I come in and I do the same amount. Thursday, I come in and I do the same amount. And I never go beyond that threshold. So I never really get sore. But by the end of the week, who did more?
Because that first person then went to absolute max.
Absolute max. And
can't
it required
do any more because I got like T-Rex
100%, right? So I was at the seminar and the lady who was hosting the seminar, who was going to certify all of us, said it's like high intensity, max effort. And I was like, but why? What if we...
That is your personality, is like always like, you're not afraid to be like, why? Like, you need to tell me why.
It's, if we're looking at it from this lens, wouldn't it be better? And she was like, yeah, I know about CrossFit. I was like, no, I get that, but that doesn't mean, and I own a CrossFit gym, right? So it's like,
it's now a High Rocks gym too.
It is, yeah. We're both.
So is it CrossFit? Are you affiliated with CrossFit too?
Yep, we're affiliated. Yeah, we're affiliated with both. And the main, reason for that is we just want to be a good teammate. You know, it's like if you offer some CrossFit, pay the people who founded it their dues. If you offer High Rocks, pay the people who founded their dues. Yeah, you know. But I was like, I get that, but that doesn't mean we can't be better. You know, so if being smart and not always going to max intensity, don't get me wrong, we need to have that right threshold to see results, but I don't have to. And you've had your fair share of CrossFit workouts where you just roll on the floor, you kick your shoes off, it's you can't breathe. It's like you're like dry heaving and it's like the lactic acids. did that really make you better, or are you now so hurt and so sore for the next 4 days that you can't move and
Yeah.
have another proper training session,
Yeah.
right? So it's
100%. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think, and I know a lot of people are going to be like kicking back on like, but it makes me mentally tough. And I get it. Every once in a while, being able to push through that mental toughness is good, but like,
well, I'm not
it's also
saying
it's also a form of mental toughness to make logical
to
decisions
to
if they
hold
read it.
yourself back
Yeah,
if you feel like you have to,
that's also a form of mental
right?
toughness. That's not a sign of weakness. That's actually you're really fucking smart.
It's
Yeah.
what did Dr. Jordan Peterson say? It's I rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like have the ability to push when you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And there will come a time, there will come a place where that's okay, but there's a reason that in a good training program there's percentages,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you've
There's a
also
reason why
done
you'll rarely ever see one rep
you've
maxes or anything like that.
because the strain that comes with it, the risk, you've done sports where
Sport balls.
the main goal is to lift as much weight as possible just once,
Yep.
like how
Sport of
often.
weightlifting.
Yeah, like how often in your training leading up to that day where you had to put everything on the line
Yeah.
did you see 100% programmed?
Very, very rarely.
You
Yeah.
have to do it so that you've tasted how heavy this feels, that you've experienced this before,
Yeah.
but leading up to it, like,
There's even and each coach has their own philosophy in terms of
mhm.
programming. It's a mixture between science and art at this point. There are some people that will program peaking or testing out your one rep maxes every 3 months or something like that. There's some
That
people,
sounds very Eastern European.
yeah, but there's some people that really believe that you shouldn't be testing your one rep maxes that often, like on a quarterly basis. It should be maybe once or twice a year at most. And so I've talked to a lot of higher level, even on the Olympics, the world level. I've been very fortunate in training with some really great athletes. And I'm talking about the programming, seeing what they're doing. And they go to meets, and majority of their meets, they only test out like their 90%, 90, like barely even that. But on the big meets, once or
Hmm.
twice a year, they'll test out their one rep max. They save it for that because
Well, you
it's,
see that now. You
yeah.
see that now with the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like the people who are the best in the world,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when we're looking at the 400 meters, for example, or the 200 meters, the people who are most likely going to podium, like when they don't have to, how much are they doing? Just enough to qualify,
Yeah.
right? Just enough.
You don't get brownie points for doing more than what you need
And
to. You
it's,
save it.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
put the shit on the line when it matters.
exactly. So it's the same thing with life is that like you don't get brownie points for doing more than you need to. If anything, you're going to get a lot farther in life when you make very logical decisions about that kind of stuff. So
Ooh,
putting your ego in the back.
when you ask for help,
Yeah.
when you go together, you
Hmm.
know,
Those
it's,
kinds of things. Right. So that was a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I love rabbit holes. That was fun.
hey, it happens all the time. And
I
then I
know.
catch myself like halfway through, but now I'm committed.
Yes, that's what I was like about a quarter way through. I'm like, we're in a rabbit hole, but let's screw it. Let's keep going.
Yes.
Right. So, but again, guys, like compassion, accountability. If you're right listening to this and you're like, I'm not sure. I don't know if this is going to keep an open mind. If you're already wondering if it's not going to work, you're more than likely like it's not going to work because you're self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to look for all the reasons why it's not going to work and basically create the outcome that you're already thinking. But if you keep an open mind and maybe find all the things that may work for you, you might be a self fulfilling prophecy. And this could be a really great skill to apply in your life to help you progress faster and get a better quality of life overall, physically and mentally. And this is a skill that can be applied to anything in your life
Hmm.
more than just nutrition, fitness. And so, again, just to recap, like, let's ignore the BS that we see online of you just need to be more disciplined and let's take a logical viewpoint of this. let's look at what science shows us, right? Let's not base our decisions off of emotions. Let's base it off of logical thinking. And when we look
Yes.
at the research, compassionate accountability is what helps people actually achieve our goals a lot faster and have a better quality of life, mentally and physically.
It's if
Right?
you're not convinced, I feel like it's been a hot second since we recommended a book. You
Mm.
know,
Let's recommend a book. What do you have in mind?
Dare to Lead by Brené Brown.
Ooh.
It's a very easy read. It's if you're into science fiction, novels, those kind of things, it won't be for you. It's a book that talks about compassionate accountability and how you are a leader if you want to or not. If you are a parent, you're now a leader.
Yeah, you are a leader.
If you're at work, you don't have to be the boss, but if you are training people, you're now a leader. If you're a friend and you have someone somewhere that looks up to you, you don't even have to know that they do. You are now a leader, right? So the
If you
book
want
is
to
about,
inspire other people too, I know a lot of people are like, I want to inspire people. I want to help
Mhm,
people make
yeah,
change. Well, now you have to put yourself in the shoes of being a leader too.
100%. And the book is about embracing that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dare to lead, but it starts with you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it takes compassionate accountability to the level of it's not just about holding yourself responsible, but how can you help others hold themselves responsible?
I like that.
And by doing it that way, you're going to have better relationships, you're going to have a better work atmosphere, you're going to be better with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, it's a very easy read. It's not too big of a book either. They probably have an audiobook, so for my people who have like a 35-40 minute commute, just
Yeah. Or if you're
listen.
going on walks like you should be, getting your steppies in, you can
Hell
listen to
yeah.
an audiobook or even our podcast episodes.
Unless you walk your dog, pay attention to your dog. Drives me nuts when people walk their dog and like all they do is be in their phone and then you
Oh, I
have the
hate
dog.
that.
Just pay attention, like
Yeah,
be there, enjoy.
be with your dog. They
Yeah,
don't
enjoy.
need
I was
you.
about to say enjoy the moment. They know.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. I think that's how you say because it's like the E with a little boop,
Mm-hmm.
you know? I know what it's called in French, but I don't know what it's called in English.
Asterisk.
It's like the E with a
Asterisk. I think it's asterisk.
no,
I might be
asterisk is
completely wrong.
asterisk is the star, no? The little
Oh,
star.
it is. Never
So
mind. I'm gonna
it's
shut
the
up.
E. Yeah, it's the E with a 45-degree angle.
Okay. Yeah, I think they know what they're talking about. Right. So, with that being said, before we let you guys go, Toby almost uh, completely shared it earlier. But if you're listening, you're still here and you're still listening. One, we thank you and we appreciate you. Two, we're gonna let you in on what's going on. So there you go. Okay.
Ooh,
So
secrets.
So as per usual, you guys know that we've been on the background working really, really hard. The calendar dates are a little bit off right now. We still have to look back at it because the whole 2 weeks kind of put us behind. But we have this whole mapped out of release dates of the new things that are being brought on within Thriving On that we're really excited about. We've been building up the hype and we're finally getting to a point where we are about ready to release them over a period of time for the rest of the year. And so what we are going to be releasing is the first thing that we're going to talk about is the one that you basically dropped. It's going to be called the TO Collective. So TO is Thriving On, the TO Collective, and that's going to be group coaching.
Yeah.
So that's going to be more of a collective of people working together to make healthier decisions. It's going to be a little bit more hands off. Like it's not going to be as one-on-one as our one-on-one clients, but it's still going to be a really, really great resource to be surrounded by like-minded
All right.
people,
Let's
learn
be
a
real.
lot about your nutrition fitness and start making progress. We're going to be releasing all that information soon.
Let's be real.
What?
Let's be real. Again, I understand, and this is what we always do: under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
But with how many group calls we're planning, and
so many,
the availability of having a really cool app and having the app on,
and all the programs that we're going to be giving to all of the whole collective for free if they join.
I swear it's going to feel like one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, it's going to feel like a steal for the price that we're giving, right?
Yes.
And the amount of resources, and we're going to be adding so much resources after we get everything released next year. We have so many things
Because then
that
we
we're going
can
to be
focus on
filming. Yeah,
adding,
yeah,
it'll be
100%.
sick.
Yes. And so with that being said, the collective, we'll even have a VIP for that, for a little bit more one-on-one attention, where you can, if you want to, book one-on-one calls via phone call for about 15
Stands for
minutes
a
with us.
very intelligent person. Yes.
Very intelligent person. And so we're creating this, and the reason why is because there's some people that thrive in a group setting. And also, like, we have to acknowledge with our economy today, not a lot of people have extra cheese, right? And I've been in that situation where I had like very little money, but I knew I wanted to invest in my health, but everything that I could afford was absolute BS. And every single time I did that, it made me worse than when I started. So we're hoping that this is going to be an amazing resource for you guys to actually get away from the diet culture BS and actually take the steps that you need in order to become the CEO of your health at a much more affordable price.
It's going to
Right?
be.
It's going to be.
Going to be.
So
It's not wish. It's not hoping.
it's going to be.
Hell
Right?
yeah.
We still have a few other things that are going on. Should we tell them? Should we just drop it all?
Sure. Let's just, it's Christmas came early.
Christmas came early. Okay. So the collective and the collective VIP is coming out. The next thing that's going to be coming out is that we are going to be doing another fundraiser challenge, right? With Fire. Or reach out to them. I love those things. This isn't going to be a diet culture BS challenge where you're going to try to starve yourself and whoever has the best before and after pictures wins. It's going to be basically, we're going to be rewarding action takers, like we were talking about before. Like, if you want to create change and lasting change, this needs to be an identity change. You have to become that healthy person. And in order for you to change your identity, you have to take action. But taking action is hard, right? And so getting us in a group forum where we come together and we push each other, we motivate each other to create that action. A lot of times that leads to that motivation or momentum, I like to say, to help you kickstart to becoming the CEO of your health. So these challenges are really great for people that are just getting started or just need that kick in the butt to get going, or they're just looking for a little bit of fun. But we're doing it for a good cause too. All the money that you pay to do this challenge, and it's going to be very affordable, but all the money that we accumulate through this challenge, all the proceeds will be donated to Fire, Forging Youth Resilience, which is a nonprofit organization that helps kids in need through fitness. And it's absolutely amazing. We partnered with them last year, and they came in and a lot of the kids told their stories, and it was phenomenal. So that's going to be coming up soon as well. And then I'm very excited about this one too. The next announcement that's going to be coming out is that we are going to be releasing. Toby, you want to tell him?
No.
No, you don't want to tell him? What?
No. You tell him.
You want me to tell him?
Yes.
Okay, I will tell them. It's called the TO training method. Okay, and so basically what this is going to be all of our fitness programs, all of Toby's fitness programs. Toby is the programmer there. That's his special skill, so we let him do that, and he's phenomenal at it. It is evidence-based, like legit, not just being like, oh, this kind of sounds good, or this is what I'm doing. I'm going to throw it on a piece of paper and sell it to a bunch of people. It's like evidence-based training methods that are going to help you reach the goals that you want. And so what we're going to be offering is going to be a community program that's going to be continuous throughout the year that you can do with the community. But we'll also have, right now, currently we have 10. But I'm assuming that, Toby, you're probably going to write some more as well, that when you join it, like, you can buy these one-off programs, you can join the community as well. And by the way, the collective and all of our one-on-one clients have access to that for free. So if you need programming that is actually very effective and like prevents you from spinning your wheels, you can use that too. And our app is freaking dope, y'all. Like, it's super, super cool. I've been sharing it on my Instagram stories. So if you want to check that out, you can check it out there. It's really, really cool. Very, very interactive, very easy to use, epic information, so much fun, right? So that's also going to be coming out. We will have the specific dates again, and we have to sit down and come up with them again. I'm estimating that it's still going to be within the end of the year. Just the specific dates are going to change just because we're about 2 weeks behind, but we're really freaking excited. So thank you so much for sticking to the end of the podcast. You just got that insight that we haven't dropped at all. Like, we were going to drop it a couple weeks from now, but we haven't dropped it at all. So you got the in on the
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up this episode. I hope this was helpful in some way. If it was, please let us know. Write a review. Give us 5 stars. It helps more than you know. Our big goal is to get this good information out to people.
Yeah, think of it like Uber.
Yeah.
Leave a 5-star review.
Yeah.
Give a tip. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
And our business is a small business. And when you're working with a small business, these small businesses thrive off of referrals, whether it's referring a service that we provide or referring our podcasts or our own accounts. It helps more than you know. Just taking a quick second to share it on your stories, to write a review, it means more than you know. So take a second and do that, and we will be more than appreciative. And then, as well as if you want to keep up to date on the releases and everything like that, get into our newsletter, follow us on Instagram. I have a, what is it called? Broadcast channel too, that I just release like exclusive announcements and deals and all that stuff too. So if you want to stay up to date on when that's going to be going, because we will have an early registration, because I know for the collective specifically, me and you both, Toby, you can only take on so many clients. I think that we talked about, like, we might have anywhere from 30 to 50 spots available. And after that, we're closing it because we don't want to take too many on. I think honestly, 50 is pushing it. We might do less. But if we take more than that all at once, we might overwhelm ourselves. We want to make sure that everything is up to date, things like that. So the early registration, we're also going to give you a discount, because the first round, there's probably going to be some hiccups. And so that's our way of showing you appreciation, is by giving you a discount for that early registration. So when that early registration is open and everything, like, I'll be releasing it in the channels and our newsletter. That's where you're going to hear it first. So if you want to secure a spot first, that's where I would go get into that. So you can go in the show notes below and find that. Besides that, Toby, do you have anything else?
No.
We got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. As per usual, we love and we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for still listening to us every single day.
Crazy.
Not every single day.
No.
That would be a lot.
Every single day. Stalkers
All
are welcome.
day,
Stalkers are welcome.
No, but thank you for listening to our podcast. It still pinch me. Why do people listen to us? I don't get it.
It's because we're fucking awesome.
Duh. We're awesome. Anyways, we love and appreciate you guys. Until next week. Peace.
Bye.